The first thing people learned in Pine Ridge was how to pretend. It wasn't taught in school or written in law books, but everyone practiced it. You pretended not to hear raised voices through thin walls. You pretended bruises came from clumsiness. And you pretended some suffering wasn't your problem. That pretending was how Grace survived. Not because the town protected her, but because it erased her pain by refusing to see it. She lived in a small house near the grain silos, where dust coated everything and the air always smelled dry and bitter. From the outside, the place looked quiet and harmless. Inside, it was a storm that never stopped. For 3 years, Grace lived with a man who believed silence meant obedience. Aaron Pike worked construction, drank hard, and carried anger like it was part of his spine. In public, he joked and smiled. In private, he punished. The town called him rough around the edges. No one called him what he was. Grace learned to speak less every month. She learned which questions turned into accusations and which looks led to fists. She learned how to hide marks with makeup and long sleeves. She learned that flinching only made things worse. Existing quietly became her shield. The violence didn't begin suddenly. It never does. It crept in slowly, wrapped in apologies and excuses. Anger became normal. Fear became routine. And one day, Grace realized she couldn't remember the last time she felt safe. Pine Ridge knew more than it admitted. The cashier saw her shaking hands. Neighbors heard the shouting late at night. Even the sheriff noticed, but noticing didn't require action. Action required courage, and courage was in short supply. Grace stopped asking for help after the second time she was told to be patient. After that, survival became mechanical. Wake up, get through the day, avoid mistakes, sleep lightly. Leaving alone felt impossible. Staying felt deadly. The night everything changed didn't announce itself. Aaron came home late, angry for reasons Grace didn't ask about anymore. When he struck her, it followed the same familiar pattern. But this time, something inside her didn't shatter. It went quiet. She didn't cry or argue. She stood there afterward, blood at the corner of her mouth, eyes empty. That look unsettled Aaron more than screaming ever had. He cursed, shoved past her, and stormed out. Grace slid to the floor and waited for morning. The town woke up as usual. Trucks rolled by. People laughed. No one knocked on her door. Grace sat on the porch, bruised and exhausted, trying to decide if this was the day she stopped surviving. That was when the pickup pulled in. It was old, scratched, and dusty. The man driving it didn't rush or stare, but his eyes noticed everything. His name was Daniel Cross, a ranch hand passing through for supplies. He had learned to mind his own business. Still, when he saw Grace, something in him slowed. She sat stiffly, shoulders drawn inward, bracing even in daylight. Daniel recognized that posture. Fear like that left marks deeper than bruises. Their eyes met briefly. Grace looked away. Daniel didn't forget. Inside the store, Daniel bought feed and water. Outside, the image stayed with him. A woman shrinking herself because the world had taught her to. He told himself to leave it alone. The feeling didn't listen. That evening, as Daniel fixed tack near the edge of town, the wind carried a sound he knew too well. It wasn't loud, just sharp enough to matter, pain being swallowed. He stopped moving and listened again. The sound came from Grace's house. Daniel stood there longer than he should have. He knew the rules. He knew what happened to men who interfered, but he also knew what happened when no one did. He saddled his horse and rode. The porch creaked under his boots. Voices echoed inside, one angry, one silent. Daniel knocked once. The noise stopped. The door opened and Aaron Pike glared out, eyes hot with drink and rage. Daniel stayed calm. He said he heard something and wanted to check. Aaron laughed and told him to leave. Behind him, Daniel saw Grace on the floor, face swollen, eyes distant. Something hard settled in Daniel's chest. Aaron stepped forward, claiming ownership. Daniel didn't answer. He looked directly at Grace. Their eyes met again. This time she didn't look away. There was fear there, and permission. Daniel told Aaron to step aside. Aaron swung. Daniel blocked him easily and drove him back against the wall. The sound shook the house. Daniel warned him quietly that touching her again would end badly. Aaron froze, hearing truth instead of threat. Daniel told him to leave. After a long second, Aaron did. The house went silent. Grace didn't move. Daniel asked if she could stand. She shook her head once. That was enough. Daniel offered her a choice: stay or leave now and go somewhere safe. Grace whispered the word safe like it didn't belong to her life. When she tried to stand, she collapsed. Daniel caught her and immediately loosened his grip. She said he would come back. Daniel said maybe, but not tonight. He handed her his jacket instead of touching her again. After a moment, she took it. They left without looking back. The road stretched empty under fading light. Grace sat rigid in the seat, hands clenched. Daniel didn't ask questions. Silence worked slowly. She said he shouldn't have helped. He said he knew. She warned him about Aaron. Daniel nodded. When she asked why he did it anyway, he said he wouldn't respect himself if he hadn't. Grace closed her eyes, tears finally falling. They reached a small ranch outside town. Lights were on. Daniel said she was safe there. Grace stepped inside carefully. For the first time in years, she slept without fear. Pine Ridge kept pretending. But Grace didn't. Someone had finally refused to look away. And because of that, she walked out of hell and toward a life that belonged to her.